Welcome, welcome everybody. How are you doing today? I hope that everybody is doing really well. And today I wanted to speak a little bit about the meaning of for freedom, don't believe anything. This is the theme and the title of our 3-week program that begins this Sunday, June 11th. And also the theme and the title of a series of programs that will be happening over the summer and fall. Very powerful statement for freedom, don't believe anything. What does that mean? Freedom, presence, consciousness, our true nature is already here. That's who we are. That's where everything arises from. That's not something that happens in the future. That thinking is a misunderstanding, right? It's just a thought, oh, someday I will get to freedom. I will get to our true nature. And in truth, in reality, it is already here. And right now in this moment, don't just believe what I'm saying. Don't just, believe. Check in your own experience. Take a moment, don't just listen to the words. Take a moment to actually check on it right now in this moment. We can call it presence, we can call it this moment, we can call it freedom, we can call it consciousness. Here it is. So it is not something that happens in the future. And the only reason we don't know that moment by moment by moment is because our attention is not at rest. So when past arises, when tendencies arise, when thoughts, feeling, emotion arises, our attention, we get curious about it. Oh, what is that? We have some investment, some identification with that. And our attention moves, and in that movement, nothing wrong there yet, but if that movement continues, we lose the sense of our true nature. And so it begins to look like our true nature is not here. So when I say for freedom, don't believe anything, that's that moment in which we are willing to realize, in which we are willing to recognize that what has arisen is the past. And that in that moment, we have a choice. And that choice, so to speak, is a choice. Either our attention moves with that, or our attention remains on our true nature, presence, this moment, freedom. Good, beautiful. It's very powerful, right? Papaji used to say, you need to make a decision for freedom, right? That's the decision for freedom. Don't believe anything. And it also has a different meaning, in a sense of in the daily life, so many things arise, so many thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, circumstances, situations. We are faced with so much in your life, in your individual life, in the world, in what's happening in the world. There's so much happening. It's so easy to identify or re-identify or strengthen our identification or believe some things or, take certain stand or certain opinion and believe that that's who you are. And, again, for freedom, for being able to come back to our true nature moment by moment by moment, we can't really believe anything. We have to be willing to give it all up in a moment just to know directly our true nature. That's so very powerful, right? It's so very powerful, and really actually, different than what we normally think or believe meditation is. I want to actually speak separately in a separate video at some point about meditation, because it's not, sometimes we think meditation is, we focus on this, we sit, we do a certain posture, we do a certain, ritual, we do, and all of that is in the mind, right? And all of that is in the mind, in the body, mind. But what I'm speaking about right now, is this very immediate, very direct, very, right here recognition. And we can, that's the possibility to come back to this over and over and over and over and over again, right? That's the meaning of what Papaji used to say, keep quiet, don't make any effort, right? Come back to this. Don't try for anything. Don't hold on to anything. Over and over and over and over again. The other focus of this program and the series of programs is what I shared in the description of it, that I want to address you more individually. What does that mean, more individually? Because, satsang addresses us all, right? The moment we sit in satsang, we come into a greater awareness of what is. We become aware of past, we become aware of patterns, we become aware of our true nature, we become, aware. It's very powerful, right? How everybody gets addressed in satsang. So when I say I want to, work on this with you a little more individually, is that so often there are still tendencies, places, ideas, thoughts, beliefs that we hold so near and dear, that we are not even really aware of that, right? That we are not, able to discriminate. We are not able to say, this is the past, right? And so a little different form of satsang in which we could address this more directly, in which I could help you to make this more visible. And not just visible, because sometimes it requires an ability to be present to it as well. And you see, because of the experiences in the past or events in our past, our nervous systems are not always able to do that. We have some impediments, trauma past, is one of them, a very, significant one. And so sometimes, despite of our willingness to want to be present, we don't exactly even know how, right? But also so often we are not quite yet fully aware of what are these tendencies, that we hold so near and dear, that we believe that that's who we are. So when that arises, we don't even question that. We believe that, right? We think that is who we are. Remember, for freedom, don't believe anything. So I want to dive into this a little more in detail, a little more individually, and see what are the areas, that we still need to look at or address or become, make more visible. That's what it is, right? We want it to become more visible. And sometimes, really, we need more support. We need more help, for this ability to be present here, right? So that when that past arises, it doesn't take our attention, right? That we can see it for what it is, because we actually have the capacity to be present, right? We are not just overwhelmed by it or taken by it or lost in it or lost in the secondary reactivity around it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to both, clarifying keep clarifying this. For freedom, don't believe anything. And yes, you can, we can, right now, and at any moment we can come back here. A very direct experience. And everything else that I will be speaking about and addressing in these programs, I'm very much looking forward to that. I want to encourage you to participate. I want you to, if you can, share, like, subscribe, make this video more visible if you are enjoying it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a program.